everyone. So I am here with Karen, and I am so grateful that you agreed to do this interview. I mean, your story is so remarkable and so powerful, and I just think people really need to hear it. So thank you so much.
No problem, Jen.
Well, if we could start giving people a little bit of a background, anything you want to share in terms of how things kind of snowballed for you. I know you have had symptoms for most of your life, but kind of how things really catapulted to the point where you were at your worst and what that was like for you when you were at your worst.
Yeah, as I said, you're right in most of my life, but in hindsight, you don't know these things if you look back. So from the age of 6 and 7, I used to get chronic migraines. And I'd be in a room for a whole day in the dark, puking. And in fairness to my mum, she knew there was triggers, but we didn't know what was causing it. So I never ate chocolate or sweets or anything. So in a way, knowing what I know now, they were histamine reactive. And I had massive gut issues and bowel movement problems even back then. But I normalized them because I had nothing to compare them to. And then obviously I hit my teens and stuff, and I went to an all girls convent school. And this is one thing I think women do a lot. I never wanted to poo in
Oh,
school.
yeah.
So I nearly trained my body not to as well. And then that led to even more worse migraines. It's like the toxins were in me. And then I did sport. I did a lot of sport as a kid. And then obviously weekends as a teenager went out drinking. And I didn't realize this was the histamine was starting to build and build. And then it was not until I was about really ramped up, about 25. And I was a runner. And I went out one day as normal, didn't do anything different. And when I say anaphylactic, every single part of my body swole. Lips, eyes closed over. Basically, we had got just as close as my throat. And my mum got me to A&E. And that proper frightened me. Like this, it wasn't just like that really did. And the doctors, yourself, they're like, they had no answers. So, do you know what? Looking back, I didn't really push it. I just saw, I must have eaten something, or they were spraying the fields with weed killer around that time. So I just put it down to that. Nothing happened for about another 6 months. And then I went out at nighttime in the winter. So it wasn't like it was hay fever or anything. And exact same thing happened, but a lot worse.
Wow.
And then it got serious. Then I was like, okay, we went for tests and blood tests and allergy tests. And the conclusion was that I was allergic to my sweat. That's what they told me. And just never to do sport again. And they handed me an inhaler and an epipen and said, go live your life with them and never, ever not have them in your handbag.
Wow.
Now, I grew up with a very holistic mum. So thank God sorted that way, where my trust in I was like, this just can't be. And I've always been like that with everything. And you know yourself, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers are like, right, I'll Google, where do I start?
Yeah.
Where the hell do you start? But I just knew the avenue I was going down wasn't right. And I'm one of these things, there's got to be an answer, And then that's when I stumbled across homeopathy, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And it's not that he had an answer, but he taught me the concept of he sort of getting worse to get better.
Yes.
So this is where my concept of sometimes the body's not against you. I thought my body was fighting against me, if that makes sense. I was like that. There was something wrong with me and I was faulty. That was the whole sort of medical side of it, that there must be something wrong. And then he definitely got me on the mode of, hold on, how about my body's trying to protect me?
Yeah.
And I think once that mindset kicked in, I was like, right, what? And then I think I'd start seeing groups on histamine intolerance and histamine food. So I went down that road of putting out, as you do, the histamine foods. But And that was going on for years. And I eventually went on to being vegan, vegetarian, because for a while, in fairness, I started to feel better. But what I was really doing was cutting out processed foods.
Yes. Yes.
That was probably the initial feeling good.
Yes.
What I didn't realize then was I was just so nutrient deprived.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I was having histamine reactions, I mean, I'm Irish, right? So my personality type is always told that I'm passionate and fiery. But a lot of them, I think I had histamine flare-ups. So I'm not saying it, but my histamine flare-ups in my mind was my personality. Because I'm fiery. And I would have outbursts, proper outbursts. But because I had a conversation with the outbursts, it just looked like it was me.
Right.
But my heart would race and my cheeks would go red. And I just was like, is that me just being passionate? But it wasn't. Definitely not. And I'd always get a migraine to follow. Yeah. And then I didn't flare up. I went vegan and stuff. And then I was like, brilliant. I'm on the road to sort of recovery, but never felt right. I felt I was avoiding, the only way I was surviving was avoiding foods and being good. And I have a mentality like that as well. If I'm good and I control things, and that's sort of my personality, and I can fix this. And my nervous system was always on edge, to be quite honest. Yeah. But this was escalating. And then over a year ago, before I found you, I flared up again when I ran. And that really worried me because I was at the end of all my tools.
Yeah.
Now, when I say tools over 10 years, I mean, I did all the yoga, meditations, got rid of all I'd already the background, I've got rid of all toxic cosmetics. I'd done all that. So that's why it really scared me last year. I was like, yeah, what do I do?
Yeah.
And then go ahead, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just want to highlight something, that, I mean, all the physical reactions you were dealing with were really scary, very serious symptoms. But I think that people sometimes don't connect like the personality type, like behavioral tendencies, like emotional patterns with these issues as well. And it's all connected. Like you were saying, like this feeling where you're getting so revved up and you had this really fiery temperament and you were a perfectionist and you had to do everything right and good. And like this is all a pattern I see all the time with people with histamine issues, and I think I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that in terms of like, oh, like that's part of this picture too. And now you're seeing the contrast. I mean, we'll get to where you are now, but like you are seeing shifts in that personality type, and it was totally the same for me. So I just wanted to highlight that for people. But go ahead, continue.
And the only reason how I came about you was my brother, believe it or not, suffered his whole life the same, but he had sinusitis and that sort of thing. So we never correlated it, really. So my brother's very much, he was proper, he's brilliant. He'll do paleo, he does things 100%, but like me, like intense, right? But in a way it benefited me because he found you. Okay, because he was carnivore, then he looked at histamine, then he proper researches. So then he said, Karen, there's a girl I think you'd be interested in. And then that's when I came across your videos, and I was like, and at that time, personality type, which I'm not going to diss, a bit of intensity is not bad either. Like I haven't lost that, but I'm just a bit gentler with it, if that makes sense. So my intensity back there was like, I gotta have her now, and I gotta ring her, and I gotta message her, and I gotta get fit. And it was still, I gotta get fixed. I gotta get fixed. And there was still this rushing race that if I do it right, I'll get it right and I'll get fixed. Now, obviously, then I met you, and as you can probably say, I was like, yes, Jen, I will do this. I will do it all perfect. Okay. And I went and bought the foods and you know, like the grass fed foods and everything. So I had all that lined up. But as I now know, healing just doesn't do that in a really good way. So I started to absolutely immediately, the histamine was the first thing I needed to get down before I even started to heal, which I now know was the gut. But all the protocols I'd been looking at were like kefirs and fermented foods and all this, which were counterproductive. I couldn't take it because it would cause a histamine flare up. So I was like, how do I heal if I histamine?
It's the
So that was my battle. Yeah.
Yes.
And that was where I was like, this is out of my hands. I need help. And I just didn't know what to do. So yeah, the first step was the meat stocks. And just that took me a good 3 months just on the base. And that was where patience came in.
Yeah.
So this time last year was Christmas. I'm not going to lie. That was hell on earth that Christmas, right? Okay. I physically looked better. I had energy. Don't get me wrong, but it was the battle of the mind.
Yes.
Because all the sugar, my tools, I just had to sit it out. Not only that, I wasn't running anymore, and that was my major tool.
Yeah.
I couldn't run.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
you were really forced to like do a crash course in like, how do I cope? Right? Because like you're saying, you couldn't exercise, you're going into anaphylaxis every time you exercise. You know, we took all the sugar and starch away, you know, so you're on kind of the low histamine, gut rebuilding diet, starting to introduce meat stock. And it was like all your spices were gone and you were forced to really like face yourself and your own nervous system regulation. And you were so courageous with that. But yeah, I mean, do you feel like you just kind of like learned to just kind of sit with it and like just wait and be patient, or how to get through that time?
Like it was brilliant. Like I took my Christmas tree down on Christmas Day last year. Because my hat, not in a row, I was like, I have physically nothing to do. So I took it down. So going forward from that, I just was like, and it wasn't like I went meditate. I couldn't. My nervous system I couldn't. That actually was worse. And in a way, I'm glad I started to give myself a break. I was like, because you're like, I must meditate because that must be the thing that will calm me. No. What I found for me was walks. Just plenty of walks because I was still moving and calm, and I had forests near me. I just went to them forests so many times, and I knew, well, the way life is, nothing stays the same. It has to move. So I was like, I stopped thinking about when I'm better. Does that make sense? That I think that was what was hindering me.
Yes.
I was like, how about you're better now? You're getting better now. And I think once I was like, I still had this end goal at that stage. No alcohol, nothing. Now, not only that, the personality type I thought I was like, who the hell am I? I'm really boring.
Yeah.
I actually lost who I was. I was like, I was a bit of a drinker, you know, not bad, but I just was like, I'm fun. I didn't feel I was fun.
Right. Yeah.
You know, not that anyone else, but I was like, okay. And then I avoided going out, which I think was not a bad thing. I just was like, I'm not forcing myself into situations to have to explain. My energy, my physical energy went up, okay? Meaning I could really feel that quite soon.
Yeah.
So I physically felt healthy, if that makes sense. But I had no energy in my head at the time. It was just so drained and tired, like it was a histamine withdrawal. Like it's like my brain for the first time was like, and sleep. And just sleep. So I slept a lot more, definitely. Definitely slept a lot more. And then, yeah, I still, for the first few months, I think the breaker for me was when I ordered kefir, the fermented foods. And that was about
Yeah.
6 months in. And because I was already taking a bit of the brine water from the fermented veg really slowly. And I didn't know how much yeast and candida I had in me. Actually, that started to show after 3 or 4 months, where that was the worst to get better. So
Yes.
I was sailing along, and then suddenly the candida rashes started.
Yeah.
Now, not great, but the cold water showers, amazing for that. And I got addicted to that. That just took the itch away. And that lasted for a good month, to be honest. But I just kept this, I nearly had this vision in my head of, oh, just get it out. Just get it all out. And once I started to feel that, it was like, and I did, I like you said, I wasn't salting my filtered water. I definitely magnesium. I was definitely I was putting the full kilo bag in the bath.
Yeah.
And I was doing them. And I then realized I didn't know at the time my detox system is a lot more impaired.
Yes.
So the detoxing was going quicker than me getting the sweat and my bowel movements. So that's why, if I, in hindsight now, because I know my body, I now, as you can probably hear, I'm a bit of a blocked nose. I sometimes still am in a rush to heal.
Yes.
So I will do the things, and I then remember my body can't get rid of it as quick as I'm putting it in.
Yes.
So, and that's fine. I just pull back a bit and I go, okay, calm it. It's doing its job. So anytime now when the rashes come up and stuff, I just slow it back. Just one more point that I think is really, really important. And I don't think enough women, a year and a half ago before I met you, I found a lump in my breast and I went and got it scanned. And I was told I'd cystic fibrosis disease, like dense breasts, if that's the word. It's dense breasts, like fibroids in my breast. And the medical world told me there was nothing I can do about them and just keep an eye on them. And yet again, like the last time, I was like, there's a reason. There must be. And then that's when you introduced me to iodine. Now, obviously I had the narrative of iodine, don't mess with that, and all that. And then I obviously went down the rabbit hole of dense breasts and iodine deficiency. And only that I work with women myself, clients, this is a huge thing that no one's telling anyone about. Like, unbelievable. So, and the only reason I'm saying this, because I physically did it, and within 2 weeks, and I was painting it on the breast area, on the fibroids, the fibroid went. Now that, I wouldn't believe it unless I had tried it.
Yes.
Do you know what you're like? Oh, yeah. And if I said that to someone else, they'd be like, oh my God, woohoo, you're just rubbing a bit of iodine, go away. No.
Yeah.
And it just baffles me that, I went through this whole procedure and a biopsy and all that, and I'm like, that was the answer. I'm not saying in all cases, I'm just saying in my case.
Sometimes it's so simple. Yeah. And we overlook the basics, and jump to these intensive interventions, but I think it's really important also to emphasize, as you're telling your story, you have been such a classic case. And I mean, this is a pattern. I see this over and over again, but your journey is such a clear case of like you say, you'll be kind of sailing along at kind of a plateau, and then you will either introduce something or increase something, and you will have such an acute detox response. Like you're saying, the rashes or the migraines will come back, or, you'll have bowel movements or, things that just is my body is moving stuff through. And sometimes it's actually having trouble keeping up with everything that's happening. And I think the mindset work that you invested in during this process has really been the catalyst for you, because you've never catastrophized, right? You've never been like, oh my gosh, I'm getting worse. This isn't working.
Yeah.
You've always been like, oh, my body is doing something. I need to be patient, or even maybe pull back,
Yeah.
wait. And then every time after it passes, like, you like level up, right?
That's
And like you have
that's the difference. Yeah.
after. Yeah.
Like that's the difference. When I hear someone saying they're sick, or
Yeah.
they come into work and they're sick, they're then on the back foot of their immunity, and they are sick because I find they're picking up colds after la. That's never been my case. So to
Yeah.
the outside world, I might look like sick, or like now I look like a classic, oh, she's got a run down cold, or you know, a little bit of so I know I look run down at the moment, right? Because I'm having a little,
Yeah.
I'm still healing, but my head is crystal clear, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
when I come out of it, the difference is I'm not run down. I've literally come out up there each
Yep.
time. So that
Yep.
now I have complete faith that way. Now, as you say, it doesn't mean I don't, like, as I said, I know there's this, this is the way I live now, if that makes sense. This
Yes.
isn't,
Yes.
I mean, you don't MOT your car and put oil and stuff and then just leave it. You've got
Right. Yeah.
it's called maintenance. Yeah. So
Right.
that I think people think, are you fixed now? But that's
Uh-huh.
one thing. That's one thing I had to, my partner, I love him. I'm with him years. That was another thing that caused me a bit of anxiety and drainage before and I said this to him when I invested in you. I was like, I'm serious this time, and you need to get on board. And I meant this nicely. I was like, this isn't me getting fixed. This, and I don't expect you always to understand, but I'd rather you say nothing. I don't need you going, are you sick again? I thought you were getting better. You get me? So and in fairness to them, you have to be fair to them, right? Because you have to explain the way it is. They don't always know if they're not coming from the same page.
Sure.
And another thing, I'm not traditionally a moaner. Okay, I'm not really a moany person. So to my detriment, I should say when I'm feeling unwell. And I've learned to do that now. It's not me moaning, I'm just stating a fact. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today.
Yeah.
Could I have a bit of support? And that has really worked. You have to ask for what you want as well, a little bit.
Absolutely.
But definitely, I think yes, a lot of it is eating the right foods and all that. But I was missing a huge component on my nervous system, on my,
Yes.
I think the catalyst of the last trigger of me swelling was we were on the back. I'm not getting into it, but we were on the back of all the lockdowns and all, and my nervous system I had locked down my business 4 times, and the outside world was just coming in on me.
Yeah.
So I think my nervous system was already on edge, and then you add in nutrient deficiency. It's a recipe for a flare up.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is that I know that you had, like you said, like, I had tried meditation, I had tried these things, but your nervous system was so also keyed up from the histamine overload that it wasn't really working. And so we had to really just work on resetting that gut microbiome, letting you go through some waves of detox, and then your nervous system started calming down enough that you could really work on mindset, and you could really start implementing some of these things in a way that was actually more effective, and I think the way that you approached it is like so key, that like, okay, I'm letting go of this being a quick fix. This is just like my life now. It's a long-term journey, and you're getting better and better every month, but like it's not like there's an end, so I do want to talk a little bit about where you're at now, because you kind of mentioned like, okay, by 6 months in, my histamine intolerance had reduced enough that I could start to bring in kefir. And now what you just told me, you're drinking a liter a day?
Yeah, so yeah, oh no, that's amazing. So the one thing, everyone, I'm sure everyone's different and everyone has their thing, but I eventually found my thing that when I stop it, I notice my bowel movements aren't the same and stuff. So it's the one thing I'm very strict on. I order it from a farm and it's my A2 organic kefir and it comes in liters and that's just on subscription now. And and yes, I understand things cost and stuff, right? But the way I look at it is, um, I've sort of backed away. That's my priority where my money goes. And I know it can get overwhelming on Jesus, do I grass-fed meat and oh Jesus, how can I?
Yeah.
So there's, as you have done on some of your videos, there's clever ways that you can still economically, but that one for me, I can now, like, I never, like a liter of kefir. I would have touched a tablespoon last year and would have been itching.
Yep.
So, but you know the good knock-on effect of that? It's not only that the kefir, yes, biologically is doing good now, because now I can take it, so now I can really heal. I think as well, my mind, I always believe if your mind thinks you're healing as well, you will heal. So the fact that I'm so, I know it sounds so sort of kiddie and girly, but I'm like, oh my God, look what I'm so chuffed with myself that makes that elixir for me even more dynamic.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
It's my, like, I no longer have Maltesers or biscuits or mince pies. I was actually so happy on Christmas night. I'd had my Christmas dinner. I was like, oh, a bowl of kefir.
Yes.
It's where I was having ice cream or something.
Right. Yes.
Right. So, I mean, that's brilliant in itself. And the fermented, I'm a fan of, I have loads of Kilner jars and I do loads of fermented veg because they're just cheap and easy and and they just go on the side of everything. And they're a simple thing. And I have a head, if I think something's going to heal me, I goddamn don't care what it tastes like.
Yeah. Yeah, see, always has
like, I never, no, when someone goes, oh, I don't like that taste, I'm like, it will heal you. You put it in your mouth. Like,
it's right.
So that's not a bad thing. I've always been able to swallow. So there's nothing, but the thing is, this is the thing. It was nothing this wasn't a diet. Like, it's so of it, like, because I've been vegan and I'm meeting, and we're girls and women, especially on the fat narrative. And I'm a dinky, tiny person. And in college, I was in the fitness industry. So we were doing aerobics classes back in the day and all that. So our body was our image. So it was, don't eat too much fat. And that was drilled. That was drilled into me. And to the point where my mum used to question, did I have an eating disorder? And it wasn't. It genuinely wasn't. I used to just feel constantly sick. And that's another thing, the blood sugars. I couldn't eat breakfast last year. I couldn't stomach it.
Yeah.
And you told me to even just get a tablespoon of yogurt, just something. And I started off probably about 3 weeks and I had to force it down me. And then the game changer was I woke up hungry.
Yes.
And then that's, like you say, the blood sugars were off as well. And then that's just a whole...
It's mood instability right there. Yeah, I remember you telling me like, oh, like my mood is just steady through the day all of a sudden. Like, wow.
Oh yeah, them flare-ups. That's why I said I thought I was bored. I was like, I couldn't... Another thing that I really thought was helpful, and I know you've done a video on this, is now don't get me wrong, I had guilt with this as well because it looks like I'm switching off from the world, and the world is a big place with a lot of problems. I had to come off Twitter and all the social media. I just don't have the personality type for it, and I can't switch off. It comes in and it stays in. And then I feel guilty because I can't do anything about it. And this was making me to the point where it was like I had a strong cup of coffee. When I get off, I would be a bit like that.
Yeah.
Um, and eventually you have to go, right, okay, it's not me being selfish. I
Yeah.
know it's awful things in the world, but I'm no use to anyone if I don't sort
Mhm.
myself out. And that's the way I
Totally.
sort of go. It's
Yeah.
not selfish.
No, no. Yeah, you've got to put on your own mask first, right? To use the metaphor. And I would challenge people, because I think a lot of people don't realize how much things like social media and Twitter and the news is affecting them. But like, I would challenge anyone who hasn't done this, like, take it out for a week and then reintroduce it
Oh,
and see
like,
if you notice
yeah,
what happens to your nervous
yeah,
system, because you
like
will suddenly notice. Yeah,
100%. Jen, we got rid of the television in 2020. Like
yeah,
we went that far. Like we've no television. Okay. So
yeah.
that was great. So I thought I'd escaped it, but I hadn't.
Mm.
And there was
Yep.
still this like apps open in your head. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That they're still
Yeah.
running in the back
Mhm.
of your head. And the thing is, the way I look at it, I go back to evolution. Before, like, humans never had the internet. Now
Right.
it's brilliant for stuff like this. And
It's
as you say, I still go on the internet for knowledge and
yes.
uplifting things. Okay. But what did we do? Like, we're not. This sounds awful, but we're not meant to know about all the wars around the world. You would have had your
Yeah.
own tribe, and what would
Yes.
you have done? You would have been concentrating on your own tribe.
Yes. Where you have an impact. Yeah.
And with the result, they're not concentrating on anything because there's way too much going on.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
the minute I got rid of that, and then I was like, okay, if I heal and I tell one other person, even one other person that
Yeah.
I've healed, that's got to be more of an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. To show a possibility. Yeah. Absolutely. Just by who you are and what you do.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, histamine, like a lot of people have this, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they think there's nothing they can do. I think that's the thing.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
in fairness to them, like, let's be really fair, they've been told, and like, as I said, I was told, there's your EpiPen, there's your inhaler.
That's it. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was told as well. Yeah.
Off you
And
go.
so many out there just, yeah, down the, just down the rabbit hole that is Western medicine, where it's just here's another pill, here's another procedure,
Yeah,
here's another specialist, and it's just this unending circus, that
yeah,
people get into, when it's like,
yeah,
okay, no, let's go back to the foundations of your immune system, of your nervous system, which you did so profoundly in your own journey, like,
mm,
and to harken back to what you said, like, some intensity can be helpful because you actually do the things, and you do them
yeah,
all the way, so
yeah,
it's just a matter of using it to your advantage and not letting it get
yeah,
in your way.
yeah.
I definitely want you to have a chance to just share any other improvements or realizations that you want to share with people, just some other, any words of hope, to share with our audience.
Yeah, words of hope. I don't look like I'm I wouldn't say I'm ill. I've
Yeah,
never said it because, but a lot of people do judge a book by its cover, right? Because
sure.
I've always been fit and I'm not overweight and all, and it's very easy to be pigeonholed, and you can suffer. And then with the results, I suffered longer than I should have because I
Yeah,
felt I had to keep up this act, and it's
yeah,
knackering, it's tiring because I looked the part, but I was really sick inside.
yeah.
And I actually didn't give people enough credit.
Mm.
I thought they expected more of me. Like, I mean, you wouldn't believe that once I started being honest with people and honest with myself, other people then, you're allowing other people then to be honest with themselves too. I think that's, if I was to give one bit of message, is women are so hard on ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
We are so hard on ourselves, definitely. As I said, the intensity is good to a certain degree. And then I was like, yeah, I say I'm a lot kinder to myself now. But yeah,
Yes.
but there's non-negotiable things like brushing my teeth now, okay? So my cold shower is non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kefir is non-negotiable for me. And
Yeah.
if I find myself getting intense and flare up, because yes, I'm going to still have healing flare ups,
Yeah.
what I find is I do a little trade off in my brain and I go, really, is it worth it? And
Hmm.
yeah, I literally go, I've paid out goddamn money for this. And I mean it in a nice way. I was like,
Yes.
I am not ruining my nervous system for someone I barely know. So if I'm out and someone annoys me or something, right? I'm like, I used to flare up at that. I'm like, I'll never see this person again. This person doesn't know anything about me. And I've paid in a nice way. And I've done such hard work. And I do,
Yes.
are they worth it? And that actually really
Wow.
calms me. Like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Good.
Now, I've
Putting
never
things in
been I've never been a walk away person ever.
right. Yeah.
And even my other half's like, did you just walk away? I was like, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
My nervous system doesn't need it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's definitely a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've just had such an incredible transformation, and it's just been such a pleasure watching you on your journey and watching your whole personality change, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I mean, just the shift over time has just been remarkable. And I do so appreciate you taking the time to share your story. Are there any last things? I don't want to make the video go too long, but is there any last
Yeah.
things that you
Well, Jen, as I
uh,
said, one thing you have taught me, it's so easy to diss everyone in the world we're in now, calling
mm,
them sheeple or they're not this or they're in this category or this category. And I just have realized it's not going to help anyone, is it? I think if someone could actually, and that's what you're doing, there's so much hatred, as I said, in the world. If we could just,
yeah,
I mean, if there's one thing you could do, is just if this video and someone happens to come across it, like I came across you,
yeah,
and you go, shit, oh my God, I've got that.
yeah.
That's got to be a better place and a better world to live in. And I know that sounds so corny, but I have to have that mindset now.
Yeah.
That people have to go hope. If we heal ourselves, I think
Yes.
the world maybe might calm down a bit.
Yes, absolutely. You're so right. I mean, what a beautiful note to end on, honestly,
Mm.
that like I think so much of the violence and hardship and
Mm.
oppression that we see in the world today is really just like nervous system
Sick.
dysregulation on like
Yeah.
a massive structural
Uh,
scale, you know, and
oh,
if people heal their
yeah.
microbiome and heal their
Yeah.
nervous system, like you do change as a person, your values change, your priorities change, like you've seen this, you know, in
Yeah.
just your day-to-day behavior
Good.
shifting. Yeah.
Yeah. And we are all humans and we're all connected. So if I don't think that my whole people around me aren't influencing me, we are. So
Yeah.
I'd like to turn it around the other way because my other half definitely has, I've rubbed off on him. He's calmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's got to be a good thing. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much
No
for
problem,
your
Jen.
time
My pleasure.
today. Yeah, I'm so excited for people to hear your story, and you have got such beautiful words of wisdom to share. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. Thank you very much. All right. See you. Bye bye.